Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that dang old...
In this league.
Talk about www. Call me, you man, just go click. It's real easy, man.
I don't know what you're saying, but that's what's going on, yeah.
Hot corner. This is different. It's a little bit different. Let's not overinflate it. Let's not make it like third base is the greatest thing ever, but where 21 to 30 or 30 to 21, however you want to look at it, for first base wasn't a place that we wanted to live. The rank range of a third baseman in 21 to 30, though they're still not like guys that you want to start. I don't think you want to necessarily start a Hunter Dozier or a Tommy Edman, or I did it, but I had to do it in one league with a J.D. Davis. It's not the most ideal situation on the planet.
It's not ideal, but I think you're way more comfortable starting J.D. Davis every day than you are starting Michael Chavis, or Luke Voigt or any of those guys. So.
And there's an argument to be had, and we did it when or at least, I hammered it down when we did our Nolan Arenado versus Freddie Freeman debate, that, the top end of first base is as adequate as the top end of third base, but just when you get into the teens, you still got massively talented players that can play your corner infield spot. So this is why, you do miss out on one of the top guys. I mean, number 8 at third base is not that far off from maybe even number 1 at third base, where that's not the case at first. So let's talk about this kind of this bottom end here of the third baseman. Boggs, you want to go 30 to 21 first?
30 to 21 at third base for me. I've got Todd Frazier from the Rangers at 30. Ryan McMahon at 29, Yandy Diaz from the Rays at 28, then Miguel Andujar Harjar at 27, Brian Anderson at 26, Gio Urshela at 25, Hunter Dozier at 24, J.D. Davis at 23, Tommy Edman at 22, and Justin Turner at 21 for my third base ranks.
Now I've got Alec Baum at 30, Phillies rookie, Brian Anderson, who I kind of want to get higher, at 29, Nick Solak at 28, John Birdie with the Marlins at 27, Miguel Andujar at 26, Hunter Dozier at 25, J.D. Davis at 24, Ryan McMahon, Tommy Edman, and Scott Kingery at 21. So this isn't fantastic, but I'd say there's an eclectic group here that can qualify utility, better for bigger leagues, like Alec Baum, for an instance. Let me spout my concern that has now arisen with him. Because here's a guy we could have thrown into this position, Gene Segura. Phillies they haven't openly done it yet, but the Phillies are talking and moving Segura around because Scott Kingery they may want as their starting second baseman. And if that's the case, they would move Segura to third, which then inadvertently, I think, affects the possibility of Alec Baum coming up even more, which is kind of crappy. Like, that's going to suck a little bit if that happens, because I have Baum ranked, high-ish in the top 30s, because he's a guy, if he's going to get the opportunity, you want to make sure that you are invested. He's one of those guys you want to own if he's in there, because the power potential could be really special, especially if he gets like half of a season. But he might be blocked more. This might also add Gene Segura to corner infield eligibility if he were to play enough games, and give Scott Kingery, I have Scott Kingery at 21, you have him at 20. He might even be a little bit more enticing because now we can move him to second base. So Phillies are an odd group, and I might come off of my excitement of Baum a little bit more, as I have him way higher than the Fantasy Pros ranker, and I have him higher than anybody has him as a high, and I think there's more concern than there ever was before.
Yeah, Alec Baum's playing time, it kind of is all dependent on how good Scott Kingery shows up in the beginning of the year, right? Or maybe even in spring training, depending on if he's a complete disaster in spring training or not. So,
and if he is, Segura goes back to second, and that opens up a much better opportunity for him to get that third base spot. But, all jacked up Kingery, if he's good to go, he's at second. What is the team going to want to give Segura off? So then your only other option is first, and Hoskins is at first, and they don't really have, and they're not going to move McCutchen probably back to center. They could see now. Here's where that opening could happen. If McCutchen could man center, and they take Hazley off, or Harper, yeah, you're right. If one of them can, then they could put Hoskins back in the outfield. Baum worked at first base in the AFL, and will probably do it in the minor leagues. That might be his opening. So that's why I think, maybe if it's draft and hold or a deeper league, or if you have minor league spots, that's why I rank Baum in my top 300, because I think he's a guy that's worth drafting and not playing the waiver game with.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know how any of this is going to pan out. So I'm kind of I'm going to wait and see. Alec Baum in most leagues is going to be a pickup anyway. So
Nick Solak is one I just so love with right now because we now have confirmation that he potentially has a job. They give him the center field job, so not only will he be third, he'll qualify in the outfield soon.
I don't think he qualifies at third in most leagues.
I think there's
just utility. So there might be some leagues where he qualifies at third, but
you're probably
I don't
right.
know where he is.
I think there is. I thought there was one or two. Doesn't Yahoo have him at?
Well, I'm sure Yahoo does. Did he look at catcher? Because now he's catcher qualified. So.
Well, he stood in front of a catcher one time, so he got the qualification. Let me look.
What do you
real
mean
quick.
he doesn't play catcher? He stands in front of him every time he bats.
I mean,
he's plenty of the catcher position.
Remember when they gave Rizzo second base eligibility because he shifted a couple times, and they're just like, well,
it's because he put on a second baseman's glove.
Yeah, by the way,
that
second and third base eligibility on Yahoo for Solak.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And he's only utility on NFBC and Fantrax.
That's right.
So.
And he's going to add outfield. So if you want me to give you a crew of players that I want, everybody talks a lot about, JD Davis and all the positives he did, which I get. Ryan McMahon could be super exciting if he's given the full-time job in Colorado. But Solak and who's my other guy? Solak and Kingery could be really cheap, freer options that qualify at third that you can play other spots. But what about you? Who in this area are you? I mean, I guess Brian Anderson. Who do you love?
Well, obviously Brian Anderson, but he's going to play more outfield, I think. But I don't mind taking a risk on Todd Frazier. He's a power hitter. That's probably what you're going to get from him is just the power stats. The average has been bad. So if you're a good average team and you're looking for power late, you could do worse than taking Todd Frazier hitting in the middle of that Rangers lineup. I don't mind him still, and he is just free. He is absolutely free. I know you're not into him.
Not
That's
at all.
fine.
If he works out, though, you have a good point. Like, if it works out, Texas is a good spot for him to drop bombs. I just don't. Like, I don't know what the format I would draft Todd Frazier with and take the risk because he doesn't pan out. They just cut his ass, and Danny Santana can be their third baseman in a heartbeat.
100%. So, yeah, I mean, he definitely has to earn it, and he hasn't the last 2 years hitting 213, 213 the previous 2 years, but last year he had 251 with the Mets.
Well, talk about Brian Anderson, though. Brian Anderson is your love child. Like, you love Brian Anderson like a fat kid loves cake.
I do love Brian Anderson, and that's because most of the time at the bottom of the draft, I am looking for batting average, and that's what Brian Anderson provides you. Now, he only hit 261 last year, down from 273, but he's a decent power hitter. He's going to be hitting in the middle of the Marlins lineup, which isn't a great spot, but still, those middle tier hitters are hard to come by.
Birdie I got on this list because he kind of qualifies all over the board. John Birdie's like the Danny Santana for the Marlins, like super utility, lots of speed. There's a little bit of power. He had a really good kind of like last couple months of the season, which gets him on here. The more I look at this, though, I'm 100% going to have Anderson and Solak over Birdie. So that's going to be adjustment when you see the new rank. So consider Birdie more 29. But the Marlins actually have guys that can manufacture runs, and Brian Anderson's going to be the one batting them in. So to your point, this can be a cheap, late, mid-20 homer guy that I think he could touch the 90s on runs and RBIs. And if the batting average goes up, watch out. And he also qualifies in the outfield.
Yeah, exactly. So, middle of the order lineup guy, probably going to hit higher than he did last year at 261 and added a little bit of pop last year.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of downside there. He even stole 5 bases, which isn't much of anything, but it's more than other CIs are getting you at this point. So I do really like him.
And I think we both like Andujar too. He's going to get some time at first. He's going to get some time in the outfield. Some platforms only have him at utility. I believe Yahoo should have him at, and it's funny because we scoff about and we joke about, well, actually this is funny. We joke about the Yahoo thing, but a lot of people play on Yahoo. So you have to take to real consideration what they give eligible. But guess what? Andujar only utility there. So
right. It's because he only played enough games to qualify at utility last year. So we don't really know. I mean,
that takes him off of third base, though, dude.
It does, but he came up as a third baseman. So I just don't know. I think he's going to get a little bit of time at third for the Yankees, but a little bit of time at first. They're playing him in the outfield. He's kind of becoming a utility player for them. Obviously, he's not going to play in the middle of the field at all. But I just don't know where he's going to play. So
I don't know if you're going to get eligibility on ESPN or Fantrax for third base, but I bet you will on Yahoo because, Ursula, they really like at third. And, if he were to get the full-time run, he has to be into consideration to being, ranked here. Frankly, he should be coming up. And I would probably, once I have more confidence in the midseason, I'll tell you, if you're looking for our ranks in March, I'll bet you Ursula gets a bigger boost once I've seen what they're doing more with that third base spot, because Anywar kind of mixes it up a little bit. But
I have Ursula ahead of him too, because, they're moving him. I think if they wanted to move, if they thought Ursula wasn't going to be as good as he is, they would have moved him around instead of moving Andujar. So I think it speaks volumes for Ursula. So
Ursula would do that because they're Super Troopers. But Ursula, I would say it's a unique situation that I want to see more. But this range of players we've been talking about, they're really not even like the corner infield we want to play with. These are the bench guys we want to make sure to draft, because if they hit, JD Davis might be a starter for some people. We're both not, quite as crazy about the hype on JD Davis. Hunter Dozier's fine. These are good, like deeper league utility or, smaller 12-man bench bats. But the next tier of 20 to 11, this is where we're really getting into some core players and what separates third from first. For me, starting at 20, I've got Justin Turner. I want to put him higher and just may. Miguel Sano at 19, Yuli Gurriel at 18. Remember, Miguel Sano was like 15 on first base, but only 19 on third. Yuli at 18, Eduardo Escobar at 17, Mike Moustakas at 16, but we will only be drafting him as a second baseman. Same with Jeff McNeil, who comes in at 15. Josh Donaldson, Eugenio Suarez, Max Muncy, and Yoan Moncada. So I just gave you 3 players in my 20 to 11 that I wouldn't even be drafting as a second baseman.
As a third baseman.
As a third baseman, I'm sorry. I would draft them as a second baseman.
For me, it goes Scott Kingery at 20, Miguel Sano at 19, Gurriel at 18, then Moustakas, Eduardo Escobar, Matt Chapman, Jeff McNeil, Eugenio Suarez, Max Muncy, and Yoan Moncada now at 11 for me.
Who do you got? Who do you want to talk about? I'm dominating.
Well,
I've been dominating.
I like Jeff McNeil a lot, and I'm kind of surprised. I am at 14. Once again, a dude that qualifies at a bunch of positions. Don't know that I'm necessarily taking him at third. He's probably more likely a second baseman, but he winds up in the middle of these rankings. And once again, this is why I hate overall. But, you look at the guys that are kind of in this realm here. And Moncada hit 315. McNeil hit 318. Gurriel was almost at 300, 298. And then everybody else is kind of in the 250s to 270s. So just a high batting average guy hitting in the middle of the Mets lineup. Hit 23 bombs last year. So I'm kind of into McNeil. But I've taken Escobar in many spots. Like the Welsh said, second base. Moustakas, same thing, second base. Gurriel and Sano are more first baseman. So it leaves me with the guys I'm kind of down on. I don't necessarily understand the fervor for which people love Matt Chapman. I think he's great. He's a good third baseman. He's got a lot of thump, but I think there is some weird uprising of people that love Matt Chapman.
I do. I think you're off on this one. That's one like you are. Let's see. You are. Where did I go? The rank. I lost the rank. So you have him at 15. His average Fantasy Pros rank is 11. Like you are significantly down on him.
Well, he's going to hit 30 homers. We know that, and that's great. Like I'm all about
two straight years of 100+ runs.
But he hit 250, right? Like Jeff McNeil literally hit 70 points better than him.
Yeah, I buy that.
Suarez hit better than him.
Bad second half for Chapman too. To counter your point, or to add to your point, 268 first half down to 222 in the second half.
Right. So he just kind of fell off, and maybe was, hidden injuries, all that stuff could have definitely happened. But most of the projections, and, once again, I'm not the biggest projection guy, but nobody has him hitting higher than 257 on Steamer. Yeah. So I just you can get 30 homers from a lot of guys, and third base is fairly deep. So I'm just kind of surprised he's being snapped up so high.
Well, I could see, I'm not drafting Jeff McNeil as a third baseman because I want more thump. I don't believe in massive power from Jeff McNeil, and I think the projection systems agree. In 133 games last year, he hit 23. No single projection system has him hitting over 20 homers, and every single one of them have him like 15 games or more played this season. So batting average is on point. Even some ATC's got him at 294. That's near the top. He's going to be an even run producer or scorer, 88 runs to 73 RBIs on ATC. But the belief in the major power numbers doesn't exist. So, like,
I'll trade 10 homers for, and it might be more than that, to be honest with you.
I think it's 15.
If you think Chapman is a 40 home run guy, it's obviously way more. But I'll trade 10 homers for 50 points in batting average. If he's going to hit 320 again, 318, I'll trade 70 points for 15 homers. So, and I don't like that trade-off game because it's not really what you want to do early in a draft.
Okay, but the projection systems are more like 40 points. Would you trade 15 homers for 40 points of batting average? I would not.
No, I probably wouldn't, but it
that's
would be
what the
close.
system is. That's where most projections are.
But that's why I don't like projections.
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't
and
think he's going to drop off 20 points in batting average and 10 homers or whatever it is he's falling off Mcneil is. So I don't know. Like I just
well, he's not. Mcneil is just not hitting as many. He hit 23 in 133 games last year. Everyone's like 287 with 20.
Yeah,
so 3 homers.
So maybe he drops off, but I don't know if that Chapman hits 36 again, 35. I think he's good for 30. I think guaranteed. But he's got to hit 275 with all those homers to go ahead of Mcneil if they're all playing enough games.
Yeah, I mean, I see him as like one of those just like bigger premier power bats. That's like been my approach with Matt Chapman. Like if I'm looking for those mid 30 homers, I want to make sure I get him. He's projected with the 7th most homers at third base, more than Bregman, more than Devers. But his batting average, to be fair, isn't quite as much. What's an interesting comp, if you even care about the projection stuff, is how close Eugenio Suarez and Matt Chapman are. I mean, they are almost the same player this coming year, except Chapman has a couple points higher batting average with more runs, but only 2 less homers. But now Suarez is evened out because of the injury stuff. Boggs, my favorite third base who I want to be as a corner or, in a deeper 15-team league, someone I'm going to target. And as we did this, I adjusted his rank. I already adjusted it a couple spots up, is Justin Turner. Justin Turner hitting between Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, and having Bellinger behind him is eye-opening. He had 27 homers last year with a 290 batting average. So he's Jeff McNeil with better power numbers and a better offense around him. And he's going, he's going off as a 22nd third baseman on NFBC with a 160 ADP, where McNeil is at 92. Justin Turner, I want the shares this year. The only thing that holds him back, though, is the injury concern. He hasn't played 150 games since 2016. So that's where the inherent risk is. But Turner, I think, across the board, outside of stolen bases, but the other 4 categories, I think he can beat Jeff McNeil this year in a significant way with a much better offense around him. I want my shares of Justin Turner either as my corner or if I really bomb out and miss out on third base, which has happened in some of the drafts we've done.
I follow along with your logic all the way. I like that Justin Turner pick. I like taking him late, too. It's hard for me to give credit to a Dodger, but I will absolutely do it here. But to play devil's advocate on him is that I think not only are his injury history a concern, but also, and this is something we neglect when looking at overall production or games played from a lot of guys, is the fact that if he has something that's nagging, the stupid Dodgers can put somebody else in at third. I mean, Chris Taylor can play there. Kike Hernandez can play there. Yeah. There's plenty of options that they have. Should he have something that's not necessarily going to slap him on the IL, but maybe something he needs to rest for 4 or 5 days.
To be fair, to add to your point too, is, the team, depth charts like to play around with this, but if Turner got hurt, Muncy could go to third. Lux can play second. Lux would be the second baseman, but Muncy could come off of first, go to third, and Cody Bellinger, Gold Glove type of guy that can be at first base. So you're right. They do have the flexibility if he is nagging. And, his average, you take the dude is actually, this is amazing. He's only played 150 games once in his entire career. So he's more of an average 120 to 130 games. So you have to build that in. It's just the team is really exciting this year, so you might have more consistency from Mcneil, but there's just such a big discount. And I just feel like he's one of the cheaper, freer players this year, and that's why I want to own my shares.
I mean, getting back to, are you into Moncada? We both have him at 11.
Yeah, I mean,
You sound less enthused about Moncada. Please.
no, I mean, I was and I know I've repeated this and I apologize, but like, coming into last year, I gave him the next chance. Like I believed in the talent and it really paid off, but guy had the league's highest BABIP at 406.
You hate him. Hate him. And okay, so BABIP is part of the reason.
I love the offense around. He's got E5, Grandal. He's got Tim Anderson. He's got Jose Abreu, Eloy, Luis Robert. There's so many good guys around him, and he's a 2010 type of a player. But I kind of come back to, like, okay, I don't believe the batting average of Moncada. And Moncada is going as the 7th overall third baseman, 7th third baseman, 61 overall. What does Moncada do so much better than Justin Turner at this point? Maybe he's safer to play. I'll give you if you say, well, he's going to play more games. He only played 132 last year, by the way. Okay, I'll give you that. He steals a couple more bases, but I don't care about those bases. From 2 to 10, even though they are significant, my draft plan is probably going to hit the stolen bases earlier.
You're taking guys that are stealing 20 bases and up earlier, so you don't have to take the handful of guys versus the twos.
Like here would be an argument if these guys were closer in draft and I was like, oh crap, I'm in the 90s and I really bombed out on stolen bases. I'm going to take Moncada over Turner. That's not the case. Moncada is going practically before the stolen base guy, the last bastion of like the Larianos, the Luis Roberts, the Victor Robleses. So I have to make the decision on Moncada early. I'm not going to do that because he's going to regress on batting average, though I love his team. There's just so many more comparable third basemen that have better, either they are a better batting average standpoint and do similar things, or I'll eat some of the batting average for massively bigger power numbers. So as much as Moncada is cool and fun, I don't think I'll own him this year because I don't think his cost is efficient comparative to like the players that are around him. So I'm just not going to do it.
So we both are low on Suarez. Obviously, he's coming off of this shoulder surgery and
just
stuff.
Of the injury.
But he's recovering quickly. I mean,
I'll bump him back up. I will.
Okay. I've already bumped him up a little bit, and I brought him up to where you had him at 13.
Yeah, well, I mean, injury, you destroy injury. If a guy has like a bad injury, you kill.
I don't want to go into the season with a guy that just had surgery.
Kill Eugenio Suarez.
No one's going to know what that's from.
That's an old person joke. If someone does, shout out to you that gets that one. Kill Eugenio. Yeah, I mean, I'll bump him up. If I get like, if he's in a spring training game and he's good to go for opening day,
you got to put him back up.
He'll be in the top 10. Yeah, he'll be in the top. Probably 10. I'd probably bump Chapman down a spot, and he'd probably be number 10.
I'd put him in 9. If he plays in spring training, I'd put him up at 9. I mean, dude almost hit 50 homers last year.
Yeah.
So if he can prove that he's healthy and he's ready to go, at least for most starts in April, I'll bump him back up. But I despise going into the year with someone with a nagging injury, because what do we always hear? Well, it's probably going to be, they said 6 weeks. I hate they said. They said 6 weeks. That doesn't mean anything. Like, they said 6 weeks. Well, they tried him out at 5 and he re-aggravated something. So now it's 4 more weeks.
Yeah.
It seems like anytime I take someone going into the year with some type of injury, it's never just up to 6 weeks. Boom, they're good to go. Just up to 4 weeks. Boom, they're good to go. It's always some nagging thing. And then they perform bad that first month. Well, he's coming back from his injuries, knocking the rust off. So I don't like that stuff, but Suarez has been moving rapidly through his recovery.
And he's just such a better bet than, like, I don't mean to pick on Moncada. And you know what? I'll even give you, like, and I say Chapman just doesn't go at a super high cost. I think it's Moncada specifically, man. Like, I go and look at Moncada, and if you want to pick on, if you're not a believer in, like, let's say Chris Bryant or Machado or Guerrero, you can attach these same points to it. I'm really not going to kill you for it, because I mean, I'm kind of making my own point, but the cost of some of these guys, and specifically Moncada, I'm talking about at like 61. Look at the deal you get on Eugenio Suarez. His power numbers are on like they're just on another level, even if you miss a couple games on it. And also, you have this guy higher, but like Josh Donaldson. Josh Donaldson's another one of those guys that, he's the 15th third baseman, 96 overall on NFBC. You're much higher. I think I'm also higher on him. I see those guys, and I just can't find the justification, specifically Moncada, who has got a BABIP that is going to come down to earth, and his stolen bases aren't enough of a warrant to move off of even the rest of those top 10 guys.
Yeah, and I'm with you on Suarez. So show me a little recovery, and then I'll be good to go with him moving into the season. But I got to put him at 13. I got to put him below some of these guys that are healthy.
You want to go top 10
into the season? Let's go to top 10. Am I starting here?
Whatever.
All right, I've got Donaldson at 10 from the Twins, DJ LeMahieu at 9, Chris Bryant at 8, Manny Machado at 7, Vlad at 6, Rafael Devers at 5, Anthony Rendon at 4, Jose Ramirez at 3, Arenado at 2, and stupid Bregman at 1.
You're hanging around piece of Pia. He did the Devers. Matt Chapman. I've got at 10. I got Matt Chapman. 9. Also DJ LeMahieu. Manny Machado at 8. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at 7. Chris Bryant at 6. And then I think we have the exact same top 5: Devers, Rendon, Jose Ramirez, Arenado, and Bregman. So we've already talked about Chapman. I mean, Donaldson we kind of skimmed over, but like he's going to be on one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball. And I think I cited in some old debates, they were like top 3 in runs scored. I mean, they are like they're like a shoot offense. Like they don't worry about their pitching as much. They've got to have decent pitching, but they're going to outrun you, outscore you.
Right.
And Josh Donaldson is now going to hit at the middle of that with Nelson Cruz. I mean, it's a lot of old dudes, though. There's a little concern there.
Yeah, I mean, and he's had an injury history, too. So I understand the concerns coming into the year, but also he got better as the year went on. Last year, too, he hit 270 in the second half with 19 of his 37 bombs coming in the second half as well. So he hit at a higher clip in the second half. So it's kind of, you could see him through this year. He only played 52 games in 2018, but he came into the year kind of still a little gimpy. He even had a scare like right coming out of spring training into the season, but he played 155 games and he got much better in the second half. So I think when you add that up, where he got better in the second half and more power in the second half and put him in the middle of a better lineup, I'm all about Josh Donaldson this year. So I put him at 10, and I'm not probably moving off of that.
I think Machado is a player like, he's not one of those I'm going to say you're only drafting him at shortstop. That's not true. You can draft him at third base. So you can go either way. He's such a crazy case because, he was at the top of projections for shortstops, but he's number 2 at third base, 37 homers. If that, again, I'm citing all of these just for reference for you guys. It's not an avocation of like, we believe in this stuff. It's just so you guys understand where they are. Like there is a firm belief as who is a player we were just talking about. Was it in first base where Rhys Hoskins is like a positive regression? It's not quite the same thing, but there's kind of that positive regression with Manny Machado that's happening this year because last season he hit 32 homers in 156 games with the Padres with a 256 batting average, and it's exactly what I was saying actually, where Steamer has him as 37 homers with a 272 batting average, almost 20 points higher, more homers, more runs, more RBI, literally everything more across the board. And Steamer's a system that wants to play nice. They want to play safe with it. I caught Machado in the first days of camp. He looked fine. I wouldn't say like he looked skinny or anything like that. But he looked like he was in a good space. He was working early with Tatis Jr. and Profar and Hosmer. It's a killer infield. There's a lot of offensive support on that team. They added Tommy Pham. They might be even adding somebody else new with Profar. I think there's a lot of offensive changes the team has made for the positive that work, and I buy a lot of the positive regression stuff with Manny Machado. And you and I have been saying it, if anyone's been listening to episodes, like Machado's a player we want to own. Like we'll find a spot for him. That's a key, Boggs, of this top 8 range that we're in, is we're starting to get in this range where we'll find a spot for you, because I think from this tier I have is like Machado, Vlad, and Bryant. They're a tier. They're tier 3 for me at third base, and I'll be good. Like even if I drafted Bregman, I'll draft Machado. Even if I had Bregman and Tatis Jr., let's just say for just some stupid argument's sake, I had them. I'm not afraid to take Machado later in the draft because he 100%. Just fits.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, when you're picking this high with these guys, it doesn't really matter. You're going to find a spot, whether it's CI, MI, utility. You're going to find a spot for one of these guys to play. It doesn't really matter. So I'm with you on that. And yeah, this is like the 1 year. It was a bad year for Manny Machado last year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. People were concerned, but I think this is, once again, we mentioned on a million podcasts, we got the overcorrection. There's no need to drop him down this far because you can kind of expect positive regression from him. His BABIP was a career low 274 last year. Not a career low, excuse me, at 265 in 2017. But the year before was 304. So put him somewhere near his career is 298. Put him around 300 there. And this batting average shoots up, and they've got him coming up 20 points. So not a surprise from that. And buy Manny Machado this year, the 1 year you can get him at a discount, 100%.
The two dudes, just a couple notes on Bryant and Guerrero. I'm higher on Bryant, Shocker, than you. I think the news of him leading off is actually still a positive. Maybe there's, I mean, you have to play like a speculative game, unfortunately. Like if you're just not a believer in him, then you just move on. Like, you know,
that's not even a done deal, you know. The leadoff thing. He volunteered to do it, but we'll see what they want to do.
Yeah, no, it's not definitely not a done deal. He's tied for second among third basemen in projected runs. He's with Donaldson and Arenado. Bregman is projected for more. He's in the 30 home run camp. He's in the 90 RBI camp. Stolen bases aren't there, but I think you could speculate that if Bryant is leading off, you know, maybe he's going to change his approach, you know, to being a more contact hitter. So batting average could come back up. There could be some stolen bases in that market. I'm actually just bullish on Bryant for this year, also having outfield eligibility. And then Vlad, I want to get your take on both these guys. Vlad Junior has trimmed up in the offseason, higher workout regimen, and some of the camp talk is, you know, that his body was really breaking down, and that was something that was hurting his ability. You know, he hits the ball so goddamn hard, but the problem was he wasn't able to get any real trajectory on it. So you just hit it and line drive. We saw that. He hit like just a rocket. I don't remember who the hell it was
Pearson.
In the AFL. No, was it Pearson?
No, it wasn't Pearson.
It was later
right.
in the game. I don't know who it was, but he hit this rocket off of someone in the AFL, and it probably went like 2 feet up, but he hit it like 118 miles an hour.
It would have been
wall.
the fourth highest exit velocity if it had been a major league at bat for that season.
But he had no trajectory, so it hit the wall and it bounced off. So the idea is
fat guy triple.
Yeah, is he's improved his body enough that he's going to hold up, and that's going to allow him for his body to not break down. That's going to allow him to get under the ball better, launch the ball more. Projection systems aren't really there, sadly. I think the highest is like 22 homers on him this year. No, Steamer's got him at 25. I'm sorry, that's probably the high. No, depth charts, but that doesn't count. So Steamer at 25. Batting average is still very friendly. Like, these are two guys that I think there's positive changes in their baseball life that make me feel like I would like to own my shares. Like, I don't know how aggressive I'm going to be on either one of them. I might be more aggressive on Bryant because I feel like he might be more cost efficient. I might be making that up, but he's going later than Vlad right now, where Vlad's going around 6 overall or 60, and Bryant is 9 at third base and 68. Both guys that I'm in on the changes they made, but what say you?
Yeah, I mean, look, Vlad is still unbelievably young, too. And he's still 20 years old. He'll turn 21 before the season starts next month. And you got to also think about the thought process of being a rookie, seeing how this year plays out. This is more games than you've ever played in your career, and adjusting to the schedule and all that, and being able to keep your body up, which is not something that he was doing at age 20 anyway. I don't think any of us really were at age 20, Welsh.
or 36 or 37.
Or 37. So, but I think that he kind of knows what the rigors of the regular season are going to do to him now. He can formulate a better plan of action to stay healthy. And like you said, you come into camp healthy. hopefully you can carry that into the whole year. So I'm high on Vlad.
Yeah.
I think we got a little bit of an overcorrection from him because we definitely have not seen the best of what he has.
And dude,
close.
That's always been my big argument. Like, me and Scott White talked about this a lot, where I was, especially on the in-season stuff I was doing with him, like, it was just like, well, Vlad is, way down there. And the argument was always like, well, what did he do last year that makes me feel good? Look at all the other guys that outperformed him. And I understand that, but there's got to be a marker. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to do this, but I will do this. There's a marker to believe that a young, really, really talented player is going to have the wherewithal to readjust their game. And Vlad just disappointed everybody's cost last year. To be frank, even if he had been drafted
too much.
Yeah, even if he had not been 50 overall and he was 100 overall, he would have been a massive disappointment at 15 homers. But like, if you've seen him in person, you scouted him, and you are a believer in his skill set and his talent, it's got to change. So when is it going to change? Is it this year? I think it's a better bet to bet this year. Could it be the following year? Probably. It's probably going to be the big year next year. But like, if you believe that this guy putting in the work, having a season behind him, getting, the all the craziness of your rookie season out of the way and starting full go as the third baseman, there's something in that. So like, if you're not into Vlad this year, I think it's just about being like, it's just an overhyped prospect. He disappointed. He's not going to turn it around. I'm the opposite. Like, this is the Mike Trout factor to me. He came up, he was blah for a year, and when Vlad gets going, he's going to be super exciting. And there's Arenado upside for him into the future. I just don't know if it's full in this year, but you and I both want to buy in.
And in a lesser plane, I feel like we had that last season with Moncada, right? People were kind of down on Moncada.
He was like the second year into that. But you're right.
Right.
Like, it's the same thing, but that was just like year two. So like, if Vlad has a 20 homer season this year and hits 279 and is like 80, I think that'll be a similar, like, we'll kind of walk into next year like we did last year with Moncada, where everyone's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's really going to pan out, and then all of a sudden blow up.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a different situation because even with Moncada being like the number one ranked prospect and everything, there still wasn't that unbelievable hype on him that we had on Vlad. And people drafted him in 2017 thinking, oh, he's going to come up, he's going to be great for my team. And he played 54 games, and hit 231. So not exciting. 2018 hit 235, had 17 and 12. So there was a little excitement there, but I don't feel like there was enough. And then this year he improved his batting average by 80 points. 80 points. So, just imagine if Vlad does that this year. I mean, I don't think he can go up 80 points, but let's bring his batting average up 50 points. How many homers is that? We all saw how much power he has. Even if you hadn't been scouting him or looking at him or whatever, you saw in the home run derby the unbelievable amount of power this dude has in his bat. It's going to come out at some point. Don't think it's probably going to be this year. I think we could see much improved numbers, though. So I'm all in. Man, I'm all in.
You give me a 20-year-old that can hit 270 in the majors, I'm okay. Like, understand that he's not even 21 years old. He's got more raw power than most. When it clicks, it's going to click well, and you're not paying the crazy cost this year. So, like, I get it. You don't want to play the risk. You just dump him down because it's like, hey, he didn't perform super great last year. Why am I going to pay some super high price this year? It's the landscape, man. Sometimes we have to follow the runs. We know the different strategies. Sometimes we have to pay up for SPs in specific spots when we don't want to. And Vlad is one of those guys, but it just happens to be a position that you don't need to pay the hyper price on. So that's why, like, if you miss the top tiers, Bryant, Guerrero, Machado is a really good range because his top five, it encompasses 5 players in the top 25. Devers coming off of a career year leading the league in not only doubles, but being, a power mashing third baseman. And there's a lot of excitement centered around him this coming season. Anthony Rendon has a new spot with Trout. That's open for interpretation. Jose Ramirez was so bad early on and turned it around and is one of the very few, if really only in the top 10, true power speed, like 20-20 type of guys. And then you've got the obvious Arenado and Bregman. So, what's your read of this situation? Because, like, I'm downish on Bregman more than most because I think the power numbers are going to come off pretty hard. Hard-ish, like, I just don't believe he's a 40-plus homer guy. I think he's a low 30s. And Arenado's coming at a cheaper price, but Jose Ramirez, it's kind of sexy in that team construction, man. You got to pick in the mid-second round, and you want some speed, and you can get some power out of the third base spot. In some places, he's going to qualify at second, I think, still.
Yeah, I know. TGFBI I'm going to have a hard time. He only qualifies at third in NFBC and Fantrax. I know that. So I'm going to have a difficult time in our TGFBI because I'm picking 15. Passing on a guy like Jose Ramirez. I think the only reason you do at that point.
He is only third on Yahoo, by the way.
He's only third on Yahoo too.
So he's not second.
Look at that. So he put together. We looked it up between the 2 years, right? Between the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, he put together a full season of crappiness. So he still is a risk. He hit 255 last year. Obviously, way, way, way better in the second half for him, but he's a guy that you look at and you go, well, why isn't this guy going in the first round? And then you look at the splits and you go, yeah, okay, that's why. So I have a difficult time placing Jose Ramirez. I think I have him around in my overall. I have him at where did he go here? I have him at 15 overall. So I'm probably right in that range of taking him there.
He's probably a prime guy.
But he's dicey. He's dicey, and third base is deep.
Okay.
So it might lower his overall value to me a little bit, and he may not even be there for me when I pick two.
For you, he might not be. Positive regression. It's another candidate for positive regression. Hit 255 last year with 23 homers and 24 stolen bases. Guess what? 23 homers and 24 stolen bases kind of subdue some of the bomb out because a guy hit 218 in the first half with 7 homers, but he had 18 stolen bases. So he made
327.
Yeah, well, so that's where we're going with it. Second half, he almost doubled a 327 batting average with 16 homers, but the speed went away. So he literally flipped the power and the speed. And positive regression on projections, he is beating every single statistical marker in every single projection system across the board. 31 homers, 23 stolen bases for the bat, and a 279 batting average. ATC, 30-27 with 276. Even Steamer, 31-23 with 277. Guess what you can't get at third base? 20-plus stolen bases unless you have one player, Jose Ramirez. Right. 90-90 in every single projection system on the homers and runs. This is a stuff and things player that positive regression off of that 327 batting average second half believe that he made the right changes and he can right this ship again, and he's coming at a second round cost. Guess what? Probably going to own some shares of him. Might even be in TGFBI because it's not often that you can get, and you can't do it at this position. There are certain players that if you want to really play this stuff, and we call stuff and things out of position stats, you can play these cards by dominating. Like if you get a shortstop with 20-plus stolen bases, let's say you get a Tatis, then you can get third base with 20-plus stolen bases. Then you could try to jump in and get a second baseman, maybe like a VR, 20-plus stolen bases. You could build a team with 5 to 8 players with 20-plus stolen bases. Your outfield, can be Laureano and Robles. And then guess what? You can pick up some super late-ass power in some of the first basemen we talked about. You can get tricky with stuff, and Ramirez can be at the heart of that. There is some inherent risk. The position is deep. But I don't know, man. I like the positive regression talk. I like that the most camps are back in on his turnaround. He might be one of the ideal second-round picks you could have.
He's I feel like such a dummy with Jose Ramirez because I'm listening to you and I'm sitting there going, yeah,
let's go.
And then I'll listen to somebody else go 160 games of 215 batting average and lower. I'm like, he sucks.
He's a loser.
What a loser. So that's why I call him dicey because I personally have mixed feelings about Jose Ramirez.
I get it.
And it's just hard to battle between.
And you want to know why too, dude? Because it's coming off of literally probably 2 picks in front of a guy like Ramirez are players like Bregman and Arenado. Especially Arenado. Arenado is falling more than ever. Arenado might be one of the bigger steals in the draft that you can get nowadays because he's practically falling out of the first round. We've seen it in so many of the big leagues. He's fallen out of the first round.
And Fantasy Pros has him, they have him at 1 and Bregman at 2. I think a lot of that has to do with the Astros scandal, but I think that we both have him at 2 because it seems like he still has the potential to get traded. And, wherever you go,
That's cooked in a little bit. Yeah.
It ain't Colorado. You know what I mean? Like, and guys sometimes have an adjustment. Is Nolan Arenado still going to be an amazing hitter? Of course. Doesn't really matter where he goes. But some of the amazingness may tick off, especially in that first year transitioning out of Coors Field to a different field. So I think that's baked in for both of us here. I am honest with you. I don't want to own any shares of Bregman at this point. Kind of afraid of him getting beamed a bunch and going on the IL at some point.
Yeah,
or getting into fights because he's kind of a punk.
I'm lower on the overall camp of him. I probably don't own too many Bregman shares. I might own some Arenado, though. If I were to start a draft with an Arenado Freeman, boy, that's an awesome start. But I'm going to feel the need for speed. I'm going to feel like I want to press it a little bit higher. So there's something about, if more than I'm talking about this, in the top 10 third baseman, the 2 I'm probably most likely to own, I think it might be Ramirez. I think I might take some shares of Ramirez, and I think I'm probably going to own some Chris Bryant shares. I think that could be a guy that I end up getting in some spots, as long as I've evenly balanced out my team, because the only problem about third base, and I think you might notice this as well, Boggs, is it's in clumps. And I don't think a lot of other positions are like this. There's this top tier clump where it's like Bregman to Devers, which are 5 guys in the top 25. Then guess what? In the 60 to 80 range, there's Bryant, Vlad, Machado, LeMahieu, Chapman, and then there's this, they work in clumps. They're not spread out enough. So it makes the position a little bit weird unless you want to play the value market, which is guys like Suarez and Donaldson, and you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely with you. Third base, extremely deep this year. It should be so much fun to draft. Get your CI out of here too. There's a lot to love at third.